Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Long Way Home, a podcast about when you just want to talk about random stuff and you want to spend a little bit more time with that special someone. You take a little detour on the way home. Today, I am joined here by my lovely co-host.
Me.
Yeah,
Carmela.
What's your name? There
you
go,
Mela.
Carmela. And I am Jackson. We have missed a couple weeks because somebody took a little oopsie and ended up in a snowbank, and so we had to take some time off. So the second episode that we had, we talked about cars, right? And that is hilarious. So Carmela and I, for context, before this recording started, Carmela and I were trying to figure out a situation with the mics to make it like less echoey. And I told her that when she's not talking to mute the microphone, but now I'm realizing I think you should just keep it on because you're going to talk in my stories and whatnot.
Yeah, he started to go on a tangent, and then he watched me hit the mute button and then said, right?
that was perfectly timed. It was. I was like, all right, and your input, and it was as you were hitting the mute button. I was like, oh no. It's like you do a jump cut and it's like over to you and there's just no one there. Like the camera is just on an empty space. But anyways, I was in a car accident, which obviously we talked about on the last podcast about cars and incidents that we've had. And I was fine for the most of that recording, and then immediately after that, I was not okay because I had a concussion, and it just took a little bit for those symptoms to kick in. So we took a couple weeks off, one because of that, and two just because our lives are a little bit crazy right now with me for school and you just being an adult and adulting.
Yeah, work.
But we're back.
We're back.
And we're going to go back to once a week because that was a lot of fun, and hopefully none of us get into any more incidents. Are you knocking on wood?
I am knocking on wood.
That was a very gentle knock. I appreciate that.
I didn't want the mic to pick it up.
I'm sure the audio engineers that are working on this episode really appreciate that.
Sure.
And by audio engineers, I mean me.
Of course.
Anyways, would you like to tell the audience what we are talking about today?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I touched on it a little bit before. But
I'm not including that in the podcast. That's getting cut.
Wow, you're just evil.
A little bit.
We are talking about live music and concerts and all of the ones we've been to, the ones that we are planning to go to or want to go to, maybe some we've missed and regret. Regret. Maybe some of the ones we've regretted. Some of the ones we've regretted. Maybe some of the ones. Jeez.
Wow, you're really just having a heart. Are you sure you don't have a concussion?
I told you, I experience concussion symptoms day to day. Sometimes I can't find the words. Sometimes I stutter. I just live with aphasia, man.
I guess so.
Bits and pieces. Obviously not enough to, for it to impact my life as it does for some people, but it gets me. My old boss, Katie, sometimes I'd be talking to her, telling a story about like the shift that I was having, and she'd be like, man, are you stroking out? Do I need to help you? So
I'm going to shine a flashlight in your eyes. How many fingers am I holding up?
Yeah, right. But yeah, anyway, we're going to be talking about that. Maybe we'll throw some things about like our concert pet peeves and things like that. I know.
I
get real
definitely
juicy.
Have some.
I have quite a few as well.
I guess so. The first thing we can start off with, or the first thing I'd like to start off with, is we just went to a concert.
We did.
And that has been very fresh in my mind.
So we actually just saw the Runarounds
at the House of Blues in Boston, which I've been to a couple times before. You've never been there before. What did you think of the venue? Did you like it?
I have been to House of Blues in my day, but not the Boston one.
Right.
I actually didn't realize that like each like place had a House of Blues.
Yeah, they're all over the place. I've been to the House of Blues in Orlando. I think, does Orlando have one? Because I'm pretty
Orlando
sure
has the Hard Rock House of Blues. It's in Universal.
I've been there.
Yes.
I what's funny is I didn't even go to a show there. I just went there to like go. I think they have like a shop, and I like went to the shop.
That's where I saw RKS there, Rainbow Kitten Surprise there for the first time.
I'm sure we will talk about RKS at some point.
I love them because I just saw them literally a week ago. So
yeah, so we'll talk about that too. But while we're on the topic of the Runarounds, for people who don't know who the Runarounds are, because they're very recent in terms of like actually going on tour and making music, but they were a band assembled by the Outer Banks director back in, I want to say 2021, and he put out a casting call for musicians. And he ended up getting this group of 5 guys, and they played for one episode. They were like sort of background characters. Like it wasn't even like, they didn't even have characters. They were just sort of there. And the director loved their chemistry so much, and they sort of hit it off so well that he was like, well, maybe we should like make this an actual thing. And so Amazon, for years, they were working on this TV show for years, but they gave them a Prime show called The Runarounds, which I think came out last year, right? 2025.
Yeah, I obsessively binge watched it in a day.
Right. So you binge it in a day
Yes, I
because
did.
one of the members of The Runarounds, Axel Ellis,
Yeah.
is in another one of your favorite bands,
Yes.
Axe and the Hatchet Men, and I'm looking at your Axe and the Hatchet Men signed tote right there. Another band that I've also grown to love.
Mm-hmm.
But so they do all their things. They play a couple shows, really low key, just to like test their original music. Then they come out with their Prime original series last year, sort of the end of 2025, which then sort of like kickstarts their tour for this year, which they just finished. And they did a really great job. I can't believe how many shows they packed in. That's one of the things that always blows my mind about artists sometimes is like they'll have a show in one city one night, and then the next night they'll be playing another show in a different city. And it blows my mind of like, okay, so they finish the show, they interact with the fans or whatever. They get on a bus, they sleep for a few hours, they arrive in this new city, they may sleep for a few more hours, and then they have to go about their day and do like social media and all that, and then prep for another concert, and it's just crazy. We watched the series, you binged the series you binged it on your own, and
Correct.
then you were like, hey, I feel like we should watch this series, you might like it, because you introduced the music, like we were in the car, and I think you played like a couple songs for me. I was vibing with it. I wasn't like so in on it. I wasn't like, yes, I can't wait to watch the Runarounds, but I wanted to watch a show with you that you liked.
Right.
And so we watched it, and after the first episode, I think I was like, yeah, this is all right. Like, I'll watch more of this. And I hadn't gotten in yet. And now I don't want to speak for you. I might be a bigger Runarounds fan than you are.
I believe you are. I mean, this all started because, their shows are incredibly hard to get into.
Very hard to get into.
I remember I was sitting at my previous job, the one before this one, and I was just lucky enough to where I was, easily adjustable to be like online getting the tickets at the time. And I remember I was watching the Ticketmaster countdown, and it was like the tickets had sold out in 30 seconds because it was at a minute, and I clicked my ticket and it said, they're sold out. And they did 3 different pre-sales, and that happened for all of the pre-sales except for the last one. And I actually got tickets for the last one because they changed to a bigger venue, and I got terrible tickets.
I forgot about
but
that.
I did it. And so I had 2 tickets because I was like, well, I have enough time. I will find someone to go with me. And if not, then I can sell this for a lot of money.
Right. Because this was before you and I were together.
Right. Yes.
And we were definitely friends, and we were close. But
Mhm.
I don't think, like, I hadn't watched that series yet, and like I didn't know anything about them yet. And so
Right.
it wasn't established that you and I would go together.
No,
But you
I
got
just
2
had the
tickets,
tickets.
which I'm so glad that you got 2
Mhm.
tickets, because then it ended up being sort of our first concert together.
Right.
But it was so incredible. So I listened to them so much. If I go on my Apple Music, because I'm one of those losers that has Apple Music instead of Spotify.
Weirdo.
Which, by the way, podcast is on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
I think you should listen on Spotify, though, because Spotify's better.
Okay. Well, anyways, as I was saying, if you look at my like Apple Music Wrapped, I don't actually know what it's called, like Replay or something like that.
Right.
If you look at that for the last 3.5-ish months, it's all Runarounds. Like I have and they only have one album out, and it's not even a real album. It's the album from the show,
Right.
which is still really good,
Mhm.
but obviously not sort of like the polished songs that I think they're gonna do.
Right.
And I just loved the music, and I kept telling you, I was like, man, the show is great. Like, it's a little corny, it's definitely cheesy. If you want to watch it, it is a great show. Like, and if you get through it, I think it gets better as the show goes on, because you like learn more about the characters and stuff. And another thing to say about the show is like a fictionalized version of them. Like, it's not really them, it's not really their stories, but they're definitely like aspects of their journeys as musicians that are sort of like filtered into it. But what was nice is that it very much felt like we had that like background knowledge of like we spent 8 hours with them as a show, right? So we got that background of like kind of who they are as people through the show. Obviously, again, they're not their characters. Like one of my favorite band members, Jesse, the bass player in the show, is like the sort of reserved, like anxious guy. Not saying that he's not anxious in real life, because we all have anxiety, but he's like a totally different person in real life than he is in the show. But we get to spend all this time with these musicians in the show, and we get to like build attachments to their music, and then we got to see them live. And I got to say, I've already said this to you. I think I said this on the walk back to the subway. I was like, that is my favorite show I've ever been to. It was really great.
I mean, props to me, may I say.
Yeah, definitely props to you. I mean, you introduced me to them. You introduced me to Axe and the Hatchetmen. You introduced me to Moondoggy. Three bands that I listen to sort of very regularly. But yeah, like talking about that Runaround show, it was our first show together, and it was really great. We stood outside for about an hour. Actually, so the funny story is being the person that I am, I was like, all right, I don't want to drive, which we definitely just should have driven, but that's fine. We'll take the train in. And so we took the train in, and that was fine. Like I knew where I was going. And then we got out of the subway station. I was like, oh, I know where we are. I know how to get to the House of Blues from here. And we walked the complete opposite way.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't know if I know where I am. And so I looked at my map and I was like, oh, we walked the wrong way. So we were probably walking for like 20, 25 minutes. And then we get outside House of Blues. And instead of just standing in the line, I was like, oh, I want to sort of like walk up closer to the venue because the line was massive. So we walk up closer to the venue. There's nothing to see except for two sort of shady guys at like a hot dog stand. And I definitely would not have gotten anything from that stand because I feel like it would have gone in and then immediately out the other end. But then we walked back and the line had grown even longer. So we were like, all right, I guess we have to wait in this line. And we waited for a while. My tootsies were freezing.
Yeah.
I think that was, at least for me, that was the most unbearable part is my feet were freezing. My hands were okay. You were chilly. You were cold.
I mean, I was a little bit, but it was mostly my feet. Like if my feet weren't cold, I would have been fine.
Yeah, I probably would have been fine too. But then we went in and it was super crowded. And our view was okay. I think that if we had not gone on our little detours and we were earlier up in the line, we probably would have been right up against the railing because we were on sort of like the second level of the House of Blues in Boston. And it's standing room only, except for sort of like the back. There are like some seats where you can actually sit. But we were in the standing room. And we were fairly close to the railing, but we were in a specific spot where there was a pillar to our left where we couldn't see like maybe a third of the stage, like the left third of the stage. So the lead guitarist, I did not even see him the entire night, except for like when they left.
Yeah,
or when they came in.
I didn't either. I was also standing at kind of a position where I didn't see the drummer or my favorite person from the show
Axel
a good
Ellis.
half of the time, but you know, all's well.
Yeah, and that kind of sucked too because I was really excited to see Jesse, but I also Zende is the name of their drummer, and he's as like a musician and like a music fanatic, he's so good at the drums. And he did like an Instagram live the other day of him practicing, and I joined it, and I was like, oh my god, this guy is crazy at drums. But there are points during the show when there was photographers, obviously for the band or for the venue, were standing right in our line of sight, and so we couldn't see the band at all. And if they have, and most venues have sort of TVs where if you can't see, you can look at the TV. The TV was like 440p and was delayed by at least a second. And so looking at the TV was like, all right, that's not really much of anything. So there's a good portion of the concert where it was kind of just listening and, standing around people and going like, yay. But the experience was wonderful. They sounded great. They were super great with the fans. Their show was super engaging. I thought they did a good balance of like bits and talking, but also they spent a lot of time playing. And we'll talk about pet peeves sort of later on in the show. But I really appreciate when a band just sort of goes up and is like, yeah, we're just going to play music because that's what you're here for. As much as it's great to hear them talk and, be funny and stuff, I was there to watch them play music. And they were great. They were really talented and definitely a great experience. I don't know if you have anything to add to that at all.
I mean, yeah, I think that like I just like it also is like I love sharing music. Like that's one of my main love languages is just sharing music and like understanding music like with other people. And
is that one of the main love languages, sharing music?
For me.
I agree. I would also say that is something for me.
Yeah, so I mean just like finding this band and like I only found it because I know Axel from Axe and the Hatchetmen.
Right.
And I love them so dearly. And so when, Axe and the Hatchetmen started posting like, go check out Axel's new show, go check it out. Like it's going to be, releasing on Prime or whatever.
Right.
and I might have had the day off. I don't remember if I like came home afterwards and I just, I sat down and I watched it, and my roommate would come out like periodically and like leave the house or come back. And so she just saw me like couch potato all day watching this show. And like now that I get to share it with other people, and like other people are finding out about it. And I remember posting like the stories from the concert online, and people were like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that you know them too. That's so incredible. And so just like finding people through music is a really incredible part of it as well.
For sure. And like I remember I got a really great picture of Jesse like holding his bass up, because they're super goofy, and there were so many times during the show where like they jumped off the stage, or like Jesse the bass player would just do like weird things. I think I made the joke to you at some point during the show where there was just a point where he was just standing still and plucking the guitar, and I'm like, that man's on another planet right now. But there was a point where he was holding his guitar sort of like up over his head, and it was just a hilarious photo. And so I posted it on my story, and I tagged him, and I think I said like, I want to be you when I grow up. And he responded to me, and he reposted on his story, and then he like responded to the Instagram DM I sent him. And like, I thought that was just so cool. And I've had that before. But I love it when bands can sort of engage with their fans. And I think we sort of caught them at a great time where I'm of the frame of mind that they're probably going to only get bigger and more popular.
100%.
And they are going to only play bigger venues, and it will only get more difficult to see them. So one, I'm really glad that we saw them now, but also at this early stage is when it's sort of the easiest for them to interact with fans because they are smaller. And so those interactions I think are great. And like I saw a bunch of people posting on social media like interactions that they had with them, and they're just great. I mean, they're in their 20s. They're sort of maybe a little bit older than us. So naturally they're going to be, catered to our audience or younger, but I definitely felt like the main people there were teenage girls, which I know we're going to talk about pet peeves at some point, but the amount of times where I was taking a video and someone behind me was just screaming at the top of their lungs, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then also just, I guess that's another thing is like taking videos at concerts. Sometimes there are moments where everyone just has their phones up, and I know that I can be victim to this sometimes, and it's something that I want to work on. But when you're at a concert, you should just like enjoy it. And there were many times during that show particularly where people were either screaming really loud or they had like their phones up recording it. And I was like, guys, let's just like chill out and let the band play. I know we're all like 16 to 20 years old and we're all like, oh my God, they're so hot. But like, it's not that deep. Like, let's just enjoy the show. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm being an old unk grandpa over here.
No, I think that's very fair. I think there's counterpoints to it that we can discuss when we discuss our pet peeves with concerts, but I do believe that it is a fair point. You talked about with like interactions with the band, and I agree. I think that like when season 2 comes out, fingers crossed, that they will just continue to skyrocket because more and more people will find it and fall in love and share it with their friends. And I mean, sharing with their friends, that's what I did. And
yeah,
now they have a very loyal follower over here.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I'm such a huge fan. And I think that's also wonderful because that was our first show, and our second show is supposed to be tomorrow night. So tomorrow night we were supposed to go see Moondoggie, which was, and we talked about this in sort of our first episode, that was kind of the band that you and I bonded over. Because we were like at a fire, just like as a quick recount, we were at a fire together talking about music, and you're like, have you ever heard of Moondoggie? And I think you played like a couple songs for me, and then you would tell me to, like, you would either send me songs to listen to, or like I would text you and be like, hey, I listened to this song or this song, like either on my way to work or just like as I was chilling out in the summer. And I feel like that was sort of like a bonding thing for us. But that was the first show that we bought tickets together. Like I remember, I think we were on the couch and I was like, hey, should we go see Moondoggie because they're close by?
We were sitting at your kitchen table upstairs, and while you guys had people over, this is how we found out that your friend Matt also listens to Moondoggie.
That's right. Yeah, because one of my best friends, Matt, also listens to Moondoggie. That's right.
They posted their tour and the tickets, and I was like, hey, so they just posted these just now. They might go quick, even though they have 1,300 followers on Instagram.
Right.
I think that we should, hop on this. And you were like, okay. And so I got them right then and there. And they're still in my email inbox, even though I delete everything out of my email inbox.
Email inbox. The unfortunate thing is that when we bought the tickets, I did not check my schedule ahead of time. And I have a festival that I'm playing here at my college this weekend. And it's on Saturday. And as we're recording this, it's Thursday. And so tomorrow is when the concert is, when the Moondoggy concert is. But I also have a rehearsal that goes right up until before the concert. And just with the rehearsal and then driving to the concert and then getting back here and being ready early in the morning for my festival tomorrow, or on Saturday, I should say, it's just not really going to work out. And you and I have already discussed this, and we already agreed that it's probably not going to work out, which is okay because the tickets were not ridiculously expensive, and there will definitely be more opportunities to see them. But that was going to be our second show, and I will say I was very much looking forward to that because I think they just released new music, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
right?
They have a new album now.
Have you listened to it at all?
I have not. I've been too busy.
I have also been too busy. But Moondoggy, we will listen to your new album, and we will report in
we
next time.
We love you. Thank you for helping us date.
Yeah, thank you for getting us. Thank you for, I don't want to say you're the reason why we got together, but you might be a reason.
A contender.
Perhaps. But like those were sort of the shared concert stories. And we are also going to my absolute favorite band growing up, Guster, who I got to play on stage with. You and I are also going to a Guster show in August. They have an On the Ocean festival because one of their songs is named On the Ocean. They usually like to do sort of like a fan festival because they're from New England, and so they do a fan festival for New England people. And I mean, people from all over the country go, so it's like a big event for them. But you and I are going. It's like a 2 or 3 day long festival in August. So I'm very excited for that. Tickets were definitely not cheap, but that's fine because I'm super stoked for that. I've gone to it a couple times before, and it's always been great. And I know you don't listen to Guster that much. You've only really listened to it through me, but that has sort of been like the band that I've shared with you. And over time, as we get closer to the concert, I will obviously sort of push the Guster onto you so you can be prepared. I don't know. At least when I go to concerts, I usually wait until a few weeks before, and that's when I start getting into the mindset because I don't want to I'm someone that I listen to an artist a lot through a period, and then I might listen to another artist a lot, like all the time. And so I don't want to listen to an artist too early and then be like, all right, I'm moving on to my next artist as I'm about to go see them. Like I want to be right in the middle of like, oh, I'm so excited to listen to this person. I don't know if you're the same way. Would you say you're the same way, or how do you approach like preparing for a concert?
I mean, the concerts that I go to, I just kind of like listen to them. Like it's just music that I listen to all the time because the concerts I go to, I don't know if I've ever gone to a concert and like not known every song of theirs ever. Like the music I see live is the music I really, really care about because I don't know, I am an enjoyer of so many small bands, and so small bands tour all the time trying to grow themselves. And so there's always an opportunity to see them, and I'm going to so many concerts. So it's just, I don't know. I listen to everybody all the time. And I mean,
indie bands are where it's at, in my opinion, because I think indie music is where you get people that are not focused on making like those songs that are going to go viral or like conforming. And this is really getting into like the nitty gritty of music making, but they're not conforming to the industry standards of like, this is what a song should sound like. They get some really interesting stuff. Like I would say Axon Hatchetman especially have a very unique sound. I mean, his voice, I feel like, is such a unique voice, but Moondoggy has a very unique sound. Like all these indie bands have their own identity. And even though like they're smaller, that is where I put all my love, like small artists trying to make a name for themselves. Because we all start from nothing. We all start from zero, and then we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, like all the concerts I've seen, I mean, I've seen a couple of like bigger artists, but you know, as of late, it's all been like super small. Like I'm always on Barricade. I always know all the songs, and then I like when I go to the concerts, I know the people who are going to the concerts just because it's such a small thing that like all the people who see them are friends. But like I've been to my first ever concert was actually Taylor Swift.
No way. I didn't know this. Really?
I went to the Eras tour. It was very early on, and my friends Jasmine and Ashley are like the biggest Swifties in the world, which is hard to achieve because there's so many Swifties.
I was about to say the biggest Swiftie. That is a really like established title.
They may not be the biggest, but they are very in tune with the Swift world.
Right.
Jasmine had asked Ashley and I if we wanted to go, and I, again, am not the biggest Swiftie, but I was like, you know what, this is a concert. This is going to be a massive, massive tour. And so I think this opportunity is awesome. And she said the tickets were not very expensive. I believe they were like $80-something when she got them, which is incredible.
That is crazy. $80 for Taylor Swift? Where was it?
It was in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
and we were at the Raymond James Stadium, which is a massive
Oh, I know that.
stadium.
Yeah, of course.
And so, that was my first one, and Taylor Swift was an aunt to me. It was an awesome experience, and it was a really good first concert because I got to dress up, and all of the people were so kind, and just it was a very wonderful environment.
That's good to hear. It's good, and like every show I've been to, the people I've been surrounded by are only wonderful people. But I've also only been to shows of the artists I'm listening to. I know pretty much every single song. Now, how old were you when you went to this Taylor Swift concert?
I was probably 17.
Wow, and that was your first concert at 17?
Yeah, my family is not the concert going type, so all of the concerts that I've gone to have been in the past few years. So I go to a lot of them. Just
I was gonna say
only
you
in the
have
past
been
few
to
years.
Since I've known you. You've been to 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Which is great, and so I've been going to concerts for a long time because my parents are concert goers, or at least they were when they were younger. So my first concert was when I was 11 or 12, and it was
Chester.
at
Somewhere.
the House of Blues. It was at the House of Blues. To be honest, that's the main band I've gone to see. But I'm really bummed I couldn't go to that. So recently, Backseat Lovers came to the college that I go to. They came to our hometown and played, and you went to that, right? And
I did.
A couple of my other friends went to that too. And I landed and I walked by the venue, and we sort of peered over the edge and looked at what was going on. But I am bummed that I didn't go because since dating you, I've become more of a Backseat Lovers fan because their music just kind of falls into that same realm of Axe and Hatchet Men, Runarounds, that sort of indie vibe, which I really like. I've been really digging that sound lately, and I would love to go to a show of them in the future. But thinking about shows you've been to, what do you think is your favorite show you've ever been to, and why?
It was my first Rainbow Kitten surprise concert.
Oh.
And I might cry talking about this because it's been on my mind so much. It hit so hard because, I was obsessed with this band and I loved them so dearly. And the people around me never listened to them, didn't know of them. So I really it was just me and this music. There was no connection there. And it got almost to a point where there was a person in my life who didn't care for them specifically, and almost I took offense to the fact that they would kind of make fun of me for listening to them. And then I found this group of people who later on became my best friends, and I shared my music with them. And at first everyone was like, oh yeah, they're pretty good. And then as you start listening, they're one of those bands that as you start listening, you're like, wow, these lyrics are incredible. The sound is so different. These voices are so different. And once you really get into it, you really get into it. And so my now best friends were obsessed with them I was. And it just, that connection is so incredible to me. And I will forever be thankful for it. And so going to that first concert, of course it was so emotional to me because it meant so much to see them for the first time, because they've helped me through some tough times, but also going with my best friends. And it was a really hard, not a really hard thing, but it was very emotional to just be there and be with my people, and then them also love it so much and understand why I do. And it was really cool. And that was also the concert that I got the lead singer to sign my poster, and I got it tattooed.
The poster that's on the wall?
Yes. I have an entire, you guys cannot see it, but I have an entire wall.
She has an entire RKS wall.
Rainbow Kitten surprise things. And I just I don't know, they bring me such a sense of self and belonging and just familiarity. So
that's awesome. Thank you for saying all that, because I'm sure people can hear it in your voice, but I can also see you, and I saw how moved you were when you were telling that story. And that's really great. Firsthand, I know how much RKS means to you because of, all the sort of the love we've shared with that band, and a band that I knew another band that I knew nothing about before meeting you, not because I wasn't interested, but I remember you told me that, I was like, whoa, what a kick-ass name, Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Yeah, so they got their name. This story might be told a little differently than, because I just don't have a great memory, but from my understanding is the band had a good friend who was not doing so well. And so the friend was, on a lot of medication, made him a little bit of loopy. I believe he was in the hospital at some point. He or she, I don't remember. And so they asked this friend, man, what should our name be? And then friend just said, Rainbow Kitten Surprise. And they stuck with it, and I don't think there's a band name that could fit them better, because that is just who they are.
That is what happens though with band names. So
Yeah.
what's funny is that you can sort of share that with your favorite band. Guster wanted to be called Gus. They wanted their band to be called, which by the way, I think Guster is a better name than Gus. They wanted to be Gus, but there was another band at the time that already had the name Gus. And so they changed it to Guster. And then it's just kind of stuck. And now it's just like such a big part of their identity. But you get names in weird ways. So I'm in a band and our name is the Hand-Me-Downs. And originally we were called More Than Jake because one of the first sort of cover songs we learned was a song by Less Than Jake. And we were like, well, we can't be called Less Than Jake. Let's be called More Than Jake. And then on the first gig that we played, they put our name at sort of the top of the playbill. They put More Than Jake. And we were like, okay, well, I guess we're stuck with that now. And so for that summer, we were More Than Jake. And then I was like, all right, guys, this name sucks. We need to actually be called something. And I suggested Hand-Me-Downs because a bunch of the musicians in our band have been in other bands and sort of like an amalgamation of second-hand band members. And so I said Hand-Me-Downs, and we changed it to The Hand-Me-Downs. And once again, that was just like one of those things where it just stuck. And like now we have merch and like all kinds of stuff. And like we released a song. And once you release a song and your name is like on something and it says it all laid out, it's like, all right, well, this will just be our name now. And I'm not super opposed to it, but it is interesting hearing how bands get their names because there is always like a story behind it. And I'm always interested in that story. So like the runarounds in the show, they have a reason for why they're called the runarounds. I think like one of the characters, and I say characters in quotations because obviously they're playing characters in a sort of a teen drama, if you will. But one of the characters was in a relationship, and I think they were broken up at this point. Were they broken up at this point?
I don't know. Remember.
Go watch the show and figure it out because I don't remember. But one of the characters, their partner was like, stop running around with your friends. And then they're like, okay, I guess we're going to be called the runarounds. Because what were they originally?
Futhermucker.
Futhermucker. That's right. And then I have no idea how they got the name the Runarounds because that's obviously not how it happened in real life. I am curious to know that story, but yeah. So going back to that story you told about RKS, it's great hearing those emotions, and I've definitely talked to people who've gotten emotional about their favorite bands before because it's just such a big part of who you are. And I think going to music concerts is just such like an incredible, unforgettable experience. And if you've never been to a concert before, I heavily encourage you to go do it.
I agree. Yeah, I just like I've built so many connections too. Like I've met so many people, and I mean, this past concert, I had met this person actually online because they are such a massive RKS fan, and so this was their, I believe, 26th show, the show that I was at, which is incredible because Rainbow Kitten Surprise took like a 2-year ghost like mental health break.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this person, the RKS like massive fan, that was their 26th show that they had been to. And like they continue to go to, like, even after the one that I went to last week, they've now been to 3 or 4 more since that point, and it's only been a week. They actually got to the opportunity to be like in the pit photography pit to like
right.
To use, like, obviously use their camera to take pictures of the band, and I think like that's so incredible. And like they're good friends with the lead singer's girlfriend now, and like they've like talked in person and stuff, and I think like that's just so cool.
Great.
And anyway, moral of the story, like, I saw them standing in front of me, and so I actually texted them on Instagram, and I was like, hey, I think I'm standing right behind you. And they turned around, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so cool to see you. And I was like, no way, this is so awesome. And so that was like a really, really incredible point.
That's so wonderful.
Right.
That's so great.
And they invited me to stay afterwards, and they're like, hey, we're going to take a big group picture and just kind of like hang out afterwards. And I was like, okay. I mean, I ended up leaving the show early, so I wasn't able to like actually talk to them, but it was so cool to just like have made that connection. And like, with as many concerts as I've been to recently, like I just have made so many connections and so many friends. I mean, I have a list of all the concerts I've been through if we want to list them all off, but
yeah,
it just is so cool.
Yeah, and I've definitely had similar experiences. I've told you this story before, but my first concert, I was just talking about Guster at the House of Blues. There was this pair of sort of younger women. They were probably in their early 20s that were standing in front of me, my parents. And they turned around, they sort of saw me, and I was like, maybe 11 or 12, and they're like, is this your first show? And I was like, yeah, like I grew up, I love Guster. This is one of my favorite bands. This is my first ever concert experience. So we were like in the middle of the standing room, and they sort of pushed their way through the crowd, and they got me right up to the barricade, and I got to stand right there at the edge of the stage and watch the show with them. Flash forward to maybe 2021, I was 18 now, and I was going to a show with my dad, and it was their first show after COVID. So like obviously COVID happened, they stopped going on tour, and they ended up playing their first show back. They ended up playing like a 3-hour long set in Vermont. And so this is like 4 hours away from this other venue that we were at. My dad and I were sitting on this big lawn, and this woman comes over, and she's like, "Are you Jackson?" And I was like, "Yes." Immediately, I was like, "Uh-oh, strange lady coming over, knows my first name." I was like, "We gotta run." And no. And she came over, and she was very nice, and she was like, "I think you were the boy that I met at the concert, and it was your first Guster concert." And she said all this stuff. I was like, "Oh my gosh, how have I run into you now?" And we took a picture, and it was great. And then she went on a podcast, like sort of a Guster fan podcast, and talked about me. And sort of talked about my story. And so my mom sent it to me, and she's like, "They talked about you on a Guster podcast." And I was like, holy crap, that's so cool. But like you make these connections, right, at shows, which are such an important social gathering for us. And then you can run into these people years down the line and still be able to sort of share those memories. And so as a musician too, growing up a musician, shows have always been an important part of my life. And I'm glad that now sort of I've never been to a show with a partner before. Like the only times I've been to shows are by myself, with a couple friends, or with, my parents, with my dad mostly. And so getting to go to a show with a partner, with you, that was such a great experience for me, because I got to share music in like a different capacity, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was really special for me. Like I'm really excited for Guster, and I know there's going to be plenty other shows that we're going to go to.
We have Easy Honey next month too.
That's true. I keep forgetting about Easy Honey, not on purpose. It's just like, so we have Easy Honey next month too. That's great. And so Easy Honey, you learned about them because they were an opener for a band, right?
For Axe and the Hatchetmen.
So it's just like this interconnected circle of indie bands.
And that's why everyone knows everyone.
Right, in like the business.
No,
or like fans, you mean?
Fans.
Yeah.
Like we all are like, I have this group chat of people who I went to Axe and the Hatchetmen in Boston with, and every time one of us goes to a concert, like, "Hey, is anyone going to this concert tonight?" And sometimes we're like, "Yeah." Like I know someone who went to the Runarounds because they went to the Axe and the Hatchetmen concert with me. So it's so cool. And like, I've been to like many of the like small indie ones now, and so I've just collected like an army of indie fan listeners that like we'll check in. And there's this one very sweet person on Instagram who will occasionally, probably once every couple months, send me like a Instagram or reel or TikTok, and they'll be like, "Hey, annual monthly reminder of Mela, I just found this on TikTok and it was about painkillers and it reminded me of you." And I was like, and it's just always so sweet.
That is so really cool. Sweet. I want to make a quick clarification because I know the context. Painkillers is the name of a song.
Yes.
Painkillers, they were not sending you a reel of like acetaminophen being like, "Yes,
no.
This reminds me of Carmela."
No, but that was my, when I first started listening to them, Painkillers was my favorite song. And obviously now I have expanded my likeage of them and learned new sounds and found new favorites. But
for sure.
Yeah. I do have one thing that I'd like to specifically discuss before, we either wrap this up or move to a different topic.
Yeah, what?
There's this question that I like to commonly ask people that I don't know if I've asked you.
Ooh, it was this. So I remember like a few weeks ago, you're like, "Hey, I have something I want to ask you on the podcast."
No, this is different.
Oh, this is a different. Wow, you're
that
just
one,
full of questions.
No, that question we can leave for another episode if you guys would like to join in next time too. If you could turn back in time and go to a concert of anyone who's no longer with us, who would it be?
First of all, fantastic question, because that is so difficult.
I already know my answer.
You already know your answer? Do you want to go first so I can think, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
All right, you go ahead. I want to know what you're going to say.
I feel like this is such an obvious... I feel like a lot of people right now are going to say like Ozzy Osbourne because he has recently passed.
Of course.
Mine would be Bob Marley.
Ooh,
because he just like... he's so obviously like I love his music, but also his concerts like were just they had so much purpose. Like it wasn't just a live concert; it had purpose, and it had like the songs have meaning, and the songs are so wonderful, and just like it just like I actually would pay so much money to see him live, and unfortunately I cannot. But I have a movie to watch and music to listen to, but I can't go see the concert. So yeah.
That's a great answer. And I know, so you and I also kind of bonded over that because we watched, what was it? It was like the Bob Marley biopic, One
The
Love.
Bob Marley movie, One Love.
Was it called One Love? Yeah, which I thought was fantastic. And that sort of exposed me to how much you love Bob Marley. Great answer. While you were speaking, I was trying to think of artists who are dead because there are like a couple artists who are not playing anymore who I would love to go see. It's a tie for me. And both of these are very, very like easy, popular answers, but I have reasons for both. So one of them would be Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson was just like he was the king of pop, but he was also like the king of the stage. He just had such an incredible stage presence that I would have loved to have gone back and listened to him, especially like in his prime when he was younger. Not that like he got worse as he got older, but being able to sit there, or I guess stand there and listen to, you know, all these songs that I feel like are just so synonymous with culture now. I mean, thinking about like the way he danced, especially, like that was one of the best. He was a performer, right? He occupied the space entirely, and I would have loved to go see that because I feel like I would have just had an absolute blast. And obviously taking sort of the controversy and maybe some of his personal side projects aside, one of the most incredible musicians who have ever lived, such a great voice, such a great personality. That would definitely be someone I'd love to go see. My other answer that I thought of, I know you asked me one, but I'm going to give you two. Queen. And like Queen is one of, and like Freddie Mercury, because I know Queen is still kind of around and they still kind of play, but like back when Freddie Mercury was alive, I am a personal believer that there is no greater singer who has ever lived than Freddie Mercury. And I know that is such like a cold take because it's like, oh, people say that like Freddie Mercury is overrated, but his range is one of like the largest ranges out of any singer who's ever lived. But he also just had so much power. And I love the Bohemian Rhapsody biopic. Rami Malek did a great job portraying him. But if you go back and you watch that Live Aid concert, you know, like he was on his deathbed. Like he was nearing the end of his life. That was one of the last performances he did. And he stood up in front of that crowd of hundreds of thousands of people and delivered like one of the greatest live performances of all time. I would have given anything to be at that Live Aid concert. So I would say for me, Queen or Michael Jackson. And I know those are such boring answers, but like that is really who I would go see. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree. Sorry, my voice has been doing this thing recently where it just likes to disappear sometimes, and I think it's disappearing right now, but it's fine, and we'll get through it.
It is definitely disappearing.
This is what I told you at work the other day. I can still speak at work the other day. No.
Oh no.
But it recently throughout the days it just will come in and out, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm changing. Maybe I'm hitting puberty.
Are your balls dropping?
Yeah, right now.
Right now?
As we're speaking. I mean, I guess this can lead into another question is, who do you want to see who is still living and with us? I also know my answer for this.
I think you know my answer too, because I've talked about this before. I would love to go see the Foo Fighters, because the Foo Fighters, like if we're talking about an artist that I haven't seen yet, the Foo Fighters, because the Foo Fighters are one of my favorite bands. And like if people ask me who my favorite band is and I say Guster and they're like, I don't know who that is, I'll be like, all right, the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Their music is fantastic, and I would love to go back in time to see Taylor Hawkins, because Taylor Hawkins was their drummer. Absolutely incredible person, incredible musician. He passed away, I want to say in 2023. So they have a new drummer now, and I'm sure he's absolutely fantastic. I would have loved to have gone see them when like all the members of the band were there, but they're still around. They're still touring, and I would absolutely say Foo Fighters for me. What about you?
Billie Eilish, hands down. I also would pay so much money to go to one of those concerts. I think Noah Kahan's pretty high on my list too, but Billie is 100% at the top.
Oh yeah.
I also would throw Metallica in there. Technically, I've been to a Metallica concert, but I was in my mother's stomach, so
building off of that, first of all, Metallica is like right below Foo Fighters. I would love to go see Metallica. Billy would be fantastic. I was gonna bring up Noah Khan earlier because we were talking about like getting tickets for concerts, and I was gonna mention how we were gonna try and get tickets to one of his concerts, and I can't imagine how impossible it is to get tickets for his concert, especially
I did in fact try, but
here in New England because he's from New England.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to get tickets. It was at Fenway that we were trying to get, and it was like there was just absolutely no chance that we were gonna get tickets.
There were 4 tour dates for Fenway.
Yes, I did not know that. 4 tour.
There were 3, and he had to add another one because they were selling out so much. I got pre-sale for the 3. I think actually it might be 3 Boston and 1 NYC that I tried to get. But there's a lot in this area, obviously.
Right.
And so I was on the pre-sale for 3 of them.
Yeah.
I signed up for pre-sale for 3 of them. And I was unfortunately at work. And unfortunately, I work in a very busy environment where...
A very high-stress environment where you cannot just step away.
Right. But originally, I was just going to, at the time, try and step away for a second. I even was going to take my lunch break at this time just so I can click into the Ticketmaster and get in line. And then whatever, just have my phone sit there and it'll, alert me when, it's time for me to, click through my tickets. And, I was just going to try. I clicked into the Ticketmaster. 40,000 people were in front of me for tickets.
Insane.
And so you got to think 40,000 people are also trying to get 1 to 6 tickets per person. Per the 40,000 people.
Right, because you get in, you're like, all right, I'm going to go with my dog, I'm going to go with my mom, I'm going to go with my son-in-law.
I'll just get tickets, and if I can't use them, I'll sell them. That type of thing.
Exactly. And also just the really, and this isn't a really long tangent that I'm not going to go into, but the pains of Ticketmaster and the pains of some of those bigger corporations of ticket sellers where it's just a bunch of resellers or people are scalping tickets, and it's just such a pain. And I can't think of a way to fix it. And so my thing of when I complain about things is I try to, if I'm going to complain about something, I like to have an idea in my head of what I would like it to be like, because I don't want to just sit here and be like, you should fix that without actually having any context. And I don't know how to fix this, but it sucks.
Noah did this thing where some of one of the ways you could get tickets for, it depended on the show you were trying to get tickets for, but some of them were Ticketmaster, and then some of them were this smaller side place to get them. I don't remember what it was called, but the smaller side one was really strange. It was, you clicked on the pre-sale link at the time, and then it didn't put you in a line. It put you in just this mixed up room of people, and it picked randomly. It didn't.
It was like a lottery.
Yeah, and so I was also on that one at the same time I was on Ticketmaster, and I didn't get through either of them. I sat on the lottery one for at least an hour, and I didn't get picked.
That's crazy. And I mean, I guess there are 2 facets to this story. One, hopefully one day we will go get to see Noah Khan.
We just might not be able to do it in Boston.
Right. Well, yeah, and you and I talked about maybe we just have to go somewhere else in the country. 2, power to a New England man. I know you're not from New England, but I'm from New England, so power to this guy. I mean, he made it out. We don't have a whole lot up here. We have some rivers and some mountains and some lakes, and a bunch of really gray days, and that's New England for you.
But that's also what he sings about. So there were so many people here that listened to this music and related to it.
Oh,
and he
for
just has
sure.
such an amazing voice on top of that people were just this is so wonderful to listen to. And I've been listening to Noah for a very long time. A snap memory came up from 3 years ago, a few days ago, and it was me and my dog in the car listening to Noah Khan.
Barkley.
And I was like, wow, I forgot I used to listen to Noah back then, because since I've moved here, I've been able to relate to it so much more.
Yeah.
And so it's become such a bigger thing in my life now. And so I would put Noah in my top 5 before he was probably in my top 15.
That's really great. Or do you think you're becoming a New Englander?
Yes.
Or are you still a Florida girl at heart?
I mean, always.
Florida girl. I said Florida girl.
I will always be Floridian 100% all the time. But, some other ones could get thrown in there a little bit.
This question has been burning in my mind. We've hinted at it before. So
pet
a very
peeves.
quick wrap up. Yes, pet peeves. And I know that I'm so passionate, so I'm going to just have to make this super concise. I'm going to list off a couple, and we can quickly talk about it. 1, people just screaming and yelling during a song. So if there are parts after a song when you want to cheer, that's great. Also, but when you're cheering for a song, there is a difference between cheering and like a blood curdling scream that is ear piercing and absolutely horrific to listen to.
I agree.
Now, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this because we just went to a concert where this happened a bunch. But I have no problem with people like singing during a song. There's a difference between singing and screaming. And I think screaming is just one of those things that I always have just been like, oh, please, just sing. If you're going to sing, just sing. Don't scream it. So that's one of them. I don't know. Do you have like one off the top of your head? Because that's like the main one off the top of my head.
I mean, just like being inconsiderate of other people's spaces.
Yes.
When I was at Rainbow Kitten Surprise, there was this couple standing next to me that kept bumping in. Like she was like dancing to it, but
Right.
they were like swaying together and they kept like hitting me really hard. And so it just was like, that was very uncomfortable after we'd been standing for hours and hours.
Right.
So I think just like, obviously like we are all very close, like in proximity, especially if you are in the pit, but like just being conscious of like, if we're all close together, don't also be swaying
right.
like that, because you know, obviously if you're in the back and you have open room, then please dance as much as you want. That's like why they sing these songs, so people can like feel them and move to them. But when you're standing 2 inches from someone, it is very unfortunate to be bumped into them.
Of course. And like there have been times where I bump into someone, I'm immediately like, oh, I'm sorry. And like it's fine. Like there's a difference between that and then just like doing it repeatedly and just having no sort of self-awareness. But
Yeah.
no, I agree. I think people that do that, people that, and I already talked about sort of like screaming, but like people who are talking are just like super disengaged. My thing about going to a concert is like, yes, you can go with friends and yes, it can be sort of like a social event. And I think that's wonderful, but you also paid a lot of money. You spent a lot of time waiting to go see the show. So watch the show.
Yeah.
There are definitely times, I think more at the beginning of the show, like when we're waiting for the artist, like if you're on your phone, like on Instagram or just like doom scrolling, like that's whatever. But like during the show, if you're going to be on Instagram or you're going to be on your phone and it's like that bright, like if you're in the back where we were, where it was dark and you're on your phone and it's just this bright light, it's like, dude, why are you even at this concert if you're not going to watch the band? Like get into it.
Yeah. And I think like there's no fine line, but there's that balance between, you know, said person did pay to be here and so they can experience it how they want to, but then there's also like, but now you are impeding on how other people want to experience it as well.
For sure. And like that is, I do of course want to reiterate, like you have the right to do whatever it is you want at a concert, but I guess being mindful of that other people are also here, and so whatever it is that you want to do or need to do, just try not to take away from the experience of other people. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Just be respectful. Just enjoy the show. You know, make friends, you know, be friendly, be kind.
You mentioned one almost pet peeve of people recording. And that was the one that I had a counter thing to, is because like I am someone who does not have a good memory. So that RKS show, the only bits I remember anymore is the bits I recorded, which I know is like, it's almost hard for people to believe, but like truly when I am in such like an exciting place like that, like I am, it's like, it's a good overwhelming thing. And it's like, I'm listening to something so wonderful. And it's like, you get like this high. And then afterwards, the next morning, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember bits and pieces. And then as the day goes on, it's like, oh yeah, Ella said this thing I remember. I don't remember what it was, but if I look back in the video, I remember what it was. And then, you know, now that it's a week later, it's like, wow, I couldn't tell you which songs they played. I couldn't tell you what it looked like. But now that I have this recording, I can go back and look at it. And people have the opposing thing of like, oh, well, maybe if you weren't recording, you would be more present and remember. And it's like, no, I tried that. So personally, I also know that, you know, sticking your phone up above is very, you know, that ruins other people's perspective of the show. So I do this thing where I will hold my phone equal to my face so that I know it's not, you know, intruding on anyone else's view. And I look above my phone. When I'm recording, most of the time, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm looking at the person that I'm recording.
And I think your solution to it is a solution that I 100% agree with. And when I like made that argument earlier, it was definitely like the people that do this and they just hold it over your heads and you're like, okay, but now I can't see. But no, and you're right. There's some people who might have like memory issues and they just like want to savor the moment. That is absolutely okay. Oops, I just no. Anyways, I definitely did not spill water anywhere. But this has been fun.
Yes.
This has been great. We talked about music, which is
Mhm.
something that we've been wanting to talk about for a while.
We also we talk about it all the time, but we want to hear from you too.
Absolutely.
So if there are artists that you have seen and want to talk about, or if there's artists that have passed on and you cannot see them anymore and would like to see them, we want to know which ones. We care.
Yes, we're going to build a stockpile of consumer comments and read them from time to time. But we would love to hear your feedback. Thank you for
Yes.
making it this far in the episode. And guess what? You've made it this far, and now it's time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for listening, liking, commenting, subscribing, following, whatever it is that
All
you
of the
do.
things.
All of the things. Share this with a friend.
Yeah,
Let people know.
Listen to the music we talked about. I mean, maybe you'll take the long way home and listen to some of the artists that we mentioned.
And once again, Carmela finds an absolutely incredible way to work the branding in here. You are just you're the pro. You might not do the intro, but in terms of an outro, you know exactly how to sneak in that little hook, you know?
What can I say? What?
Oh, I thought you said, can I say?
No, I said, what can I say?
I didn't hear the what part, so I was like, can I say? And I was like, yes.
My voice did crack because this is the point where I'm losing that voice again. But
No, so we should talk for another hour, right?
No.
Okay, anyways, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Or I guess we won't
That
see
was
you.
a voice crack.
Oh, was it really?
You're going to love hearing that one.